Now coming past the quarter pole with every chance. They're into the stretch. 3/4, 110 and 4. In the final furlong and a half. Here comes Circular Key. Circular Key storming up now to the front in the final Fairgrounds furlong from Ketchikan, who's running on in the final furlong. I'm a wild and crazy guy toward the rail. Coming up toward the wire, Circular Key becomes a racing millionaire as he wins the Louisiana Derby.
Going back to 2007, of course, Circular Key was trained by Todd Pletcher, but Todd's got assistants all across the country. And the guy with hands-on Circular Key that day at the fairgrounds joins us now on the telephone. It is Ron Faucheux. Ron, thanks for joining us here on the Morning Line.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, glad to be with you guys.
Okay, well, you've been out on your own now for quite some time, and obviously you know what to do when you've got a good horse to work with. You'll be well represented tomorrow on Louisiana Legends Night at Evangeline. Let's start with your filly in race number 5. This is Louisiana Legends Soiree on the turf, and the question I have for you with regard to Safari Calamari is, was it the blinkers or the move to turf that resulted in that big effort last time out?
Honestly, I think it was a combination of both. Obviously, pedigree suggests she's probably going to be better on the grass. Her Tomlinson number is very strong, in the 370s, I believe. The blinker move, we try not to put blinkers on too early with our horses, but we've always thought she was a candidate for it. After her I believe it was her second start routing in the stake at the fairgrounds on the dirt, we thought it'd be a good move for her. Maybe get her into the race a little earlier, whereas the jockey can really settle her and not she was a filly without the blinkers where she'd have to be ridden along kind of throughout the race. So we thought maybe it would put her into the race a little bit better. And, whereas the jockey could kind of settle her in the bridle and make one big strong run.
Speaking of riders,
that worked out.
Speaking of jockeys, you are losing jockey Colby Hernandez to the 3-1 post-time favorite Pacific Pink, but Richard Aramia is the horse that broke Safari Calamari's maiden, so clearly he's got experience with her.
Sure. Richard's got experience with her, like you said. Broke her maiden, has ridden her twice. Colby, he's the leading rider at Evangeline, and you never really want to lose a guy like that, especially off of a win. But if I had to pick another guy out there, it would be Richard. Richard and I have had great success together. He's ridden basically all of my powerhouse horses throughout my career thus far, within Gantry and Sunbeam and so forth. I couldn't have more confidence in a jockey than Richard Aramia.
And the outside post, not really an issue, right? Because it seems like she always draws the outside. In her last start, she's able to win that turf debut, and she drew the 8-hole in a 9-horse field, so not concerned about post 10.
No, post position's not a concern whatsoever with her.
Let's turn our attention to the big race on the program, the Louisiana Legends Classic. But before we talk about the Classic, a couple of races earlier, they're running the Louisiana Legends Turf, and you've got a horse in the Classic, the number 5, Heavy on the Mister. You cross-entered for the turf race. The purses are kind of comparable, $100,000 on the turf, $125,000 on the dirt. What were the key factors that led to you going in this spot with Heavy on the Mister?
Well, mainly we haven't had a great turf meet at Evangeline this year. We've had a lot of rain. And we were considering if the race were to come off the turf to run in that spot, if it was a little bit softer. However, we had scratch time earlier this morning, and we've decided to stay in the Classic. So we'll have both Heavy on the Mister and Louisiana Flyboy representing us in the Classic.
Louisiana Flyboy has run some big races, Ron, but last time out, sprinting 6.5 furlongs did not fare all that well. Are you a little surprised that you installed as the 7-2 second choice on the morning line? And for those of us that want to play Louisiana Flyboy, do you think we might get a better number than that?
In all honesty, I was. I thought he should have probably been more in the 6 to 8 range to 1. I thought Heavy on the Mister may have been more of a favorite over him.
Yep.
However, he's training really well. You know, it was his first start back. His last start was his first start gelded, and this will be his second start. You know, we really didn't like the distance. We wanted to kind of get a race into him. We didn't have many other options. However, we think he's a true route horse. This is only going to be our third start with him. However, he's training very well. He's got a very good breeze going into this. You know, and I think we picked the right rider in Morales. He seems like a jockey that should be able to settle him early and finish strong with him, and that's the kind of race he needs.
It does look as though between your two runners in the Classic, you've got a useful pairing in terms of running styles. Heavy on the Mister appears to be best from stalking mode, and Louisiana Flyboy, when he's right, he's a one-run type.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, looking at the race, it's just set up there. I think there's enough speed where Heavy can get a good stalking trip, and you know, going the mile on a 16th, if Louisiana Flyboy shows that kick, he should be trying to run him down at the end. So that's kind of what we're hoping for.
That's race number 11 at Evangeline Downs tomorrow, Louisiana Legends Night. We've been talking with trainer Ron Faucheux. Ron, thanks very much for spending a couple minutes with us. Appreciate it, and good luck to you tomorrow.
Good luck, Ron.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Anytime.
All right. You know, we talk about horse pedigrees all the time. What about trainer pedigrees? You know, you're talking about a guy that learned his craft working with Todd Pletcher, who, of course, you know, that goes back to D. Wayne Lucas. And I mean, the family tree just succeeds on and on and on down through the generations.
Well, he's in his early 30s now, so going back to 2007, he's just a kid, really. And Pletcher doesn't always, he has so many big races around the country. He wasn't there that day. And so, you know, he's the man in charge of the Pletcher operation as the foreman, and he's saddling Circular Key, who wins the Louisiana Derby, and then he Master of Command the same day to win the New Orleans Handicap 8 years ago. Guy probably in his mid-20s at that point in time. So, yeah, invaluable learning experiences. Circular Key was, just on a side note, was a terrific racehorse. I mean, as a 2-year-old, he won the Grade 1 Hopeful. As a 4-year-old, then he ended up winning the New Orleans Handicap in 2008. It was back-to-back wins in that race for Todd Pletcher. So he was a really, really precocious horse that gave a good account of himself in the Kentucky Derby, too, finishing 6th. So Ron Faucheux doing extremely well on his own. We wish him the best of luck tomorrow night at Evangeline.
Indeed. Break time for us here on the Morning Line. We'll return, start talking about more of those big weekend stakes races. Belmont card loaded with them.